Hi there, it's Thursday morning. It's the 23rd of October as I record this, and I want to invite you to tonight's Hangout I'll be hosting on Zoom. If you're a paid subscriber, you will get an email with an invite and a link, and you can join me tonight at 8 East. We always have a great time. I hope to see you there. You can only do it if you're a paid subscriber. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Join us. Always a great time. On the show today, one of the most fascinating, thoughtful, brilliant, amazing people I've ever met in my life. It's Steve Nygren. He's a businessman. He's a family man. He's a grandfather. He's now 80 years old, which you will not notice at all. He is the co-founder of Serenbe, this wonderful community, sustainable community, biophilic community. Look it up. We'll learn more about that just outside of Atlanta. And he's written a new book all about it. Start in your own backyard, transforming where we live with a radical common sense, a little bit different conversation about a very important thing that we can all relate to, how we are living our lives and where and what it all means. Great conversation with Steve Nygren. If you want to jump to it or fast forward, as we used to say, it begins at 45 minutes because I've got a lot of headlines and a great, robust clip show, including a deep dive into the whole Graham Plattner, Maine Senate nominee, Democratic Senate candidate, controversy, scandal thing. But for those of you staying here with me, look at it. I made it sound like I was a tour guide or something, like we're on a field trip. I've got the news for you. I've got headlines. I've got clips. That's what I do. Hey, if you're not subscribed over on Substack for free, or you can get a paid subscription there, please do it now. Go to substack.com @StandUpWithPete, or just go to substack.com and search @StandUpWithPete. You should find me there and you should subscribe. You can watch me live there and on YouTube, youtube.com/StandUpWithPete, where it's also free. Those are the best two places right now to help me and keep the show going, our community growing. All right. Well, let's get to those headlines from yesterday. One of the big stories yesterday was probably a big story because you can watch it. When you can watch something unfold, it tends to rank higher in people's interests and ratings across every single platform. Well, it's the fact that our dictator is destroying the entire East Wing of the People's House, the White House. That's right. First, he decorated the Oval Office in gold. Then he paves over the Rose Garden to make it look more like Mar-a-Lago. He wants to make the whole place look like Mar-a-Lago. Everybody has mocked it up and made it seem like this new ballroom that he is building that's going to cost $200 and he now said $300 million. They've mocked it up to make it look like a McDonald's, etc. So the president is destroying the East Wing. Oh no, what will Melania do? How will she ever get her work done? She's going to have to go to a WeWork or something. Oh wait, she doesn't do anything. Well, he's also suggested that he's nowhere near done, folks. He's directing renovations now at the Kennedy Center. He wants to build some Arc de Triomphe style arch built on the other side of the Potomac. It's all terrible and gross and reprehensible. And I think that I'll vote for the candidate running against him, who's on their platform promise. She says, I'll tear it down or turn it into something better and different, for the people and not for my donors. Well, that's one big story, of course, that everybody's talking about regarding the mad king that we have for a president. Also, a huge story yesterday, of course, is that the military that this crazy person leads, yet ours, has expanded their military strikes against civilian boats, this time in the Pacific Ocean. This is the 8th operation that we know of against alleged drug smugglers in international waters. Still no evidence to support his claims. We still don't know the names of the people, although Marco Rubio, I heard him say yesterday that we do know the names of the people. Well, then tell us who they are. I mean, they're dead now, so does it really even matter? How do we know that they had drugs? And is shipping drugs a crime that should lead to the death penalty? This is a crime. It should lead to mass resignations in the military. It won't. It led to at least one, it looks like. But this is going to continue. And unfortunately, I don't think apathetic Americans care about that. They just don't. If any of these people have nothing to do with drug smuggling, and even if they do, it's such a terrible, awful thing. And there's a lot more to say about it. And I'm interested in all the legality or lack of legality around it, and there's a whole bunch of experts that can speak to it. If this were any other president tearing down the East Wing and just droning fishermen potentially, that'd be a big scandal. But this entire administration is a scandal. Oh, wait, here's some news. Bird flu is back. That's great. After a quiet summer, the virus is hitting poultry flock hard in the run up to the holidays after in the midst of a federal government shutdown. And apparently it's affecting millions of turkeys too. So look for the price of turkey on Thanksgiving. You go, Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Where are the turkeys? Oh, they all died. We had to kill them all because they had the flu. I mean, I don't think it's going to be that bad, but will it affect the price of turkeys? Will people know? Will people care? Is always the question I ask here on the news segment. Now, you know that he pardoned a bunch of terrorists on day one, the January 6th insurrectionists, and some of those people got jobs in this fiefdom of an administration, believe it or not. One was rearrested on charges of soliciting a minor. Another J6er he pardoned remains in custody on possession of child sexual abuse material charges. Shocking. Another was arrested for stealing tens of thousands of dollars worth of industrial copper wire. Another was arrested for home invasion and theft. And last weekend, another J6er who was pardoned was arrested for threatening to kill the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries. Yeah, that's right. There's a lot more, too. That's just a short list of January 6th insurrectionists who were pardoned, who have gone on to, as they say, recidivize, commit another crime, or threaten to commit another crime. So that's pretty terrible and worth mentioning. I'm not hearing nearly enough about that. Following an immigration raid by poorly in shape federal law enforcement members in New York City, the Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, has launched a portal for members of the public to submit photos and videos of Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE activity. Now remember, there used to be an app in the Apple Store that someone quickly developed apparently that allowed people, I forget what it's called, to notify each other on the app wherever there was an ICE raid. But somehow, I believe the story, correct me if I'm wrong, is that Apple bent the knee to the administration, Department of Justice maybe, and said, okay, sorry, we'll take it down. And they took the app down that somebody had created. Well, you can't do that to this portal that Letitia James has created. It's probably not as efficient. Maybe it'll get there. But this is the way that we resist. This is the way that we fight back. And that, I think, is a good idea and great leadership from the Attorney General of New York, my Attorney General. All right, what else do I need to tell you? Russia struck Ukrainian power plants and including a kindergarten and other sites that killed 6 people. The president of Ukraine said it showed the Kremlin was not serious about peace. By the way, I heard somebody last night, a foreign correspondent on CNN, one of these serious analysts who has lived and worked all over the world from conflict zones to conflict zones. I forget his name, or I would say it, but he said certainly that Vladimir Putin wants peace. But what makes you think that? I asked him on Twitter, was the only social media platform I saw that he was still on. And my understanding is that the Russian economy is really being supported by this war. So I don't think that he does want it to end. Plus, he's a vicious, brutal, calculated thug of an authoritarian dictator and just a real bad guy. So I'm just not sure that he does want this war ended. Obviously, Zelensky does, and most of the world, including most of Russia, I'm sure does. They've lost over 1 million soldiers, which is hard to believe. Very hard to believe. Let me check the latest count, actually. Yes, here's a figure online. October 2025, the total number of Russian casualties killed and wounded over 1.1 million. Precise casualty numbers are impossible to verify independently, with Russia and Ukraine rarely releasing official figures. Russia has publicly reported its military losses back in September of 2022, and they cited fewer than 6,000 deaths. So the Russian people are not being told the truth. Hard to know what it is, but this estimate is around 1 million people. Soldiers. It's crazy. It's a crazy, crazy number and hard to put into context with other wars and conflicts around the world. But of course, many of the soldiers are from poorer regions in Russia's far north, far east, and from prisons, and those losses are, considered less politically sensitive if people even knew about them to the Russian leadership. Well, let's come back home here with a story that certainly does matter. Oil prices have fallen sharply. U.S. oil prices have dropped about 19% this year. Good news for drivers who should be able to fuel their cars for less, but the falling prices cause strain for American oil companies. Oh, no. They've idled drilling rigs and shed thousands of workers. The main reason for the price of drop is that global oil production has remained strong while demand has been slow to grow. So how about that? I will say this. Apparently, the Trump administration has put significant new sanctions on Russia, and that could mean something. Probably won't, but you like to see it, although it is interesting that the sanctions are on Russian oil companies after failed Putin talks. And I just mentioned the price of oil. I wonder if that affects it at all. Trump said yesterday, by the way, every time I speak to Vladimir, I have good conversations, and then they don't go anywhere. Yeah. If you had read an intelligence report analysis of Vladimir Putin from 20 years ago, yeah, you would have known that's what he does. And yet this guy is such a mark, such a dummy that he doesn't see it. And he just, if only he had any shame, he would be terribly embarrassed by how often and how deeply he's been duped by Vladimir Putin, who he also idolizes. Last night in New York City, there was the final debate before Election Day for the mayor of New York. The New York Times says Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic frontrunner, sought to play it safe in the final debate, avoiding contentious issues and pledging to keep the police commissioner. Andrew Cuomo is running as an independent, and Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate, repeatedly attacked Mr. Mamdani and accused him of being inexperienced and evasive. The candidates had tense arguments over how to build housing, combat anti-Semitism, stand up to President Trump, and navigate immigration raids. All right, well, I've got a couple clips coming up for you, but look to me like Mamdani embarrassed Cuomo again, and Sliwa embarrassed himself as he has his entire life. But you can decide. It is a New York City race. I'm not sure how interested people are, but I certainly do like this Mamdani. I think he's a real smart cat, very charismatic. And he has very carefully talked about the most controversial issues in the country the way that I think a lot of Democrats could learn from, even though two of the top ones in New York still have not endorsed him. They are both leaders in the Congress. Senator Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are both New Yorkers, and neither one of them has yet to endorse Mamdani. And Senator Jeff Merkley, who's been on this show, he's a Democrat from Oregon. He spoke on the Senate floor for more than 22 hours in an effort to gain attention as Congress cedes its relevance. That is how it was written up at the news source. I think that's New York Times as well. Yeah, that's right. I've got some clips of Jeff Merkley coming up as well. And finally, the beleaguered plant meat company Beyond Meat has become the latest meme stock, gaining over 1,000% in 4 days. So if you had shares of Beyond Meat, well, then lucky you, because yesterday they doubled in value, extended a 4-day climb of over 1,000%. The rise is drawn comparisons to periodic meme stock rallies that have disrupted markets in recent years. The sudden surge in Beyond Meat bears resemblance to the infamous GameStop rally of 2021, as well as AMC Entertainment and BlackBerry that were at the center of trading frenzies led by retail investors spreading just word that they can do. The prices spiked before eventually falling back despite limited changes to their businesses. So there you go. It's called a meme stock. Look it up, and good luck, everybody. Everything's just fine that you can somehow create groupthink to inflate a stock's price that does not worth it. It's not worth it. Company's not worth it. And then somehow cash in. I don't know. Everybody's a winner. And those are your headlines. We could talk about them or any others at tonight's Hangout. And as always, email me, standupwithpete@gmail.com. Put in the subject headlines, and I'll be sure to look into it and try to get it right here on the opening segment. Time to get to the clip show. Time for the clips that I've gathered for you. And there are so many. Let's start with a very serious, thoughtful commentary from Stuart Stevens, who is a former Republican operative. He's now with the Lincoln Project, I think. He's a contributor on MSNBC. He writes books. He talks. Anyway, he's done a full mea culpa for everything he's ever said and done as a Republican. I kind of like him, but he's always got real smart commentary, and I thought this was a good example of it.
Look, I had a going out of business sale with any optimism about the Republican Party. I mean, when you think about these senators, Trump was part of organizing a mob, encouraging a mob that came into their workplace and tried to kill them. And they still wouldn't vote to convict Donald Trump. So once you say it's okay if somebody encourages people to come in and kill me, we think there's going to be some other principle that they're going to cross. They're going to go, well, no, this 200 million or this law of the sea treaty, we've gone too far. They've just completely abdicated any moral responsibility. It's something that has happened inside the Republican Party, that we, over decades, elected a group of people who knew that they could advance through compliance, not leadership. It's like a genetic experiment. And this is the result. So none of these senators would ever do anything like this, but none of them will ever stand up to Donald Trump. They won't even say Donald Trump's name in public in any sort of negative context. It's the closest to it is Russia, where, the government became just a great kleptocracy. And that's what's happening here.
Yes, indeed. Stuart Stevens, well done. Okay. Now some laughs and brilliance from comedian commentator Trey Crowder. We always love these car rants, and I share every one that I see.
Hey, y'all. Well, everybody knows rural America, from whence I hail, is hardcore MAGA country, and Donald Trump has consistently shown his gratitude for their support by unapologetically making their lives worse at every possible opportunity. First, there was the which further lined the pockets of America's billionaire boss hogs at the expense of your Meemaw's health care. And now, while his tariffs ravage American agriculture, he's sending $20 billion to Argentina, who are actively undercutting our soybean and beef industries. And why is he doing this? Well, some say it's because Argentina's got their own MAGA kind of thing going on, which weirdly is failing miserably. So Team Trump feels like they have to bail them out. Otherwise, the rest of the world might start thinking that the MAGA approach to governance is really fucking stupid and ruins everything. And then others say Trump is just doing this because the Argentina president told him he's the shit and once gave his boyfriend a kick-ass chainsaw present. Either way. But if you're an America First, Trump-loving farmer, how do you justify that? It's like, well, I think I did hear somewhere that Argentina is one of the whiter of the Mexican countries. Plus, they did the right thing after World War II, so I can live with it. But hold on, that's not all, y'all. That's not. No, the government shutdown rage is on. It was just announced that food stamps are going to be suspended until it comes to an end. My very rural home county in Tennessee went for Trump by nearly 85%, and almost a quarter of the people there are on food stamps. And I already know what a lot of them are thinking. They're like, well, hold on now. I ain't no lazy welfare queen. I need my food stamps. They can't do this to me. Yeah, well, ask all those Latino Trump supporters how that logic works out for you. All right, and make no mistake, the Republicans could end this right now if they wanted to, with just a couple minor concessions to the Democrats. And they're like, aha, I knew the Democrats were behind this. What are they demanding? Taxpayer-funded middle school wienerectomies? No, they're trying to stop the Republicans from making your health care even more expensive. Oh. Well, I'm sure they're being real smarmy about it, right? And while his party takes food off your plate just in time for the holidays, what is dear leader up to? Well, he's spending $250 million defiling the White House with a gilded monstrosity of a ballroom to host parties attended exclusively by people who wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. Our own fat, dumb Nero, fiddle farting around while Rome, Georgia burns. And I want to know, where's the outrage, y'all? We love outrage, don't we? Where is it? I'm starting to think it's never going to come, or if it does, it won't be aimed in the right direction. I have this image in my mind of the personification of rural America seated atop a rusting tractor, giggling at an AI video of King Trump in a fighter jet, raining poop on liberal protesters, and all around hospitals close and crops rot. And there he'll sit, blissfully unaware of his own decay, enraptured by the sheer number of libs owned, until it's too late. But even then, when the end finally comes, with his last shuddering breath, the husk of rural America will utter its dying words. Nancy Pelosi, you bitch. It's a damn shame. Love y'all.
Yes, well done. Very well done by Trey Crowder, as always. Okay, let's go to that mayoral debate from last night. Here's a couple clips of Zohran Mamdani thumping Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you to the moderators, and thank you to New Yorkers for tuning in. I know you'd rather be watching the Knicks. While there are 3 candidates on this stage, you will hear only 2 messages. My opponents, who spend more time trying to convince the other to drop out than actually proposing their own policies, will speak only of the past, because that's all that they know. I am the sole candidate running with a vision for the future of this city. Andrew Cuomo will spend much of tonight attacking me. He is a desperate man lashing out because he knows that the one thing he's always cared about, power, is now slipping away from him. He will amplify right-wing talking points, he will share conspiracy theories, and he will do these things to make you feel that this should keep you up at night. But I've been spending the last year listening to New Yorkers, and I know what actually keeps you up. It's whether or not you can afford to live a safe and dignified life in this city. I have plans for our future. My opponents only have fear.
Yeah. Ooh, what an opening statement. And then there was this.
First, just heard from the Republican candidate for mayor, and then we heard from Donald Trump's puppet himself, Andrew Cuomo. You could turn on TV any day of the week, and you will hear Donald Trump share that his pick for mayor is Andrew Cuomo. And he wants Andrew Cuomo to be the mayor, not because it will be good for New Yorkers, but because it will be good for him.
Well, I thought that was great, and it's weird that Hakeem Jeffries won't endorse him, but here is Hakeem Jeffries yesterday at a House Democrat, a press conference that they hold most days, and I don't know what this buzz is in the background, but I thought it was an important clip, so I wanted to share it, regardless of that annoying buzz, if you can hear it.
A new congresswoman from Arizona, Speaker Johnson keeps saying that his antics and stunts, whatever you're doing, and he says the new lawsuit is for national publicity. Would you care to comment on that?
Well, let me yield to Catherine and Pete as well. I had the opportunity yesterday to stand with Jamie Raskin and Congresswoman-elect Adelita Grijalva after Democrats tried for the fifth time to be recognized so that Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva could be sworn in. 4 weeks have passed since she was elected. And the reason why Mike Johnson and House Republicans refused to swear in Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva is because they want to continue to hide the Epstein files from the American people. That's crystal clear at this point in time. There is no other reason that this has dragged on this long. When extreme MAGA Republicans who were elected out of the state of Florida underperformed in those elections, by the way, dramatically, as Republicans have been doing all across the country, and as we'll see in New Jersey, in Virginia, and in California in under 2 weeks. Those two extreme MAGA Republicans, these are individuals who aren't even qualified to serve in the People's House. Let's be clear about that. And yet Mike Johnson decides to swear them in less than 24 hours after these extremists are elected to the House of Representatives, and now 4 weeks have passed. The reason why they continue to unlawfully block the swearing in of Adelita Grijalva is because they are actively hiding the Epstein files from the American people, and they're protecting someone clearly. The wealthy, the well-off, the privileged, and the well-connected.
Man, he takes a lot of pauses. But did he yield to Catherine and Pete? Leadership of the Democratic Party. Catherine Clark and Pete Aguilar. Eventually they did get to talk. All right, let me get to, this is Chris Hayes talking to Senator Chris Murphy about the demolition at the White House. I thought this was interesting.
In the grand scheme of everything that is being done, and particularly in the context of these, what appear to all the world to me like extrajudicial killings, the knocking down the East Wing is not like anywhere near as morally significant. But I wonder if you had the same. I've just had encountered for myself and other people. There was really something visceral about those images that landed. I wonder if you or other colleagues or other people you're talking to have had that same reaction.
No, listen, there's a lot of history that has taken place in the East Wing, and it was just destroyed without any conversation in the American public, without any consent of Congress. It was absolutely illegal. And yeah, that visual is powerful because you are essentially watching the destruction of the rule of law happen as those walls come down. It is just a symbol about how cavalier he is about every single day acting in new and illegal ways. That's the story with the killings in the Caribbean as well. The president just doesn't believe that any law applies to him, that he can destroy federal property, that he can steal from American citizens, that he can kill with impunity, that he can throw anyone in jail. we are not living in a functional democracy any longer. It's not too late to save it, but it is just important to acknowledge that we aren't on the precipice of losing our democracy. We are losing it every single day. We are not a functional nation with a rule of law any longer, and those toppled walls in the East Wing are a pretty stark reminder of that.
Yeah, there you go, Chris Murphy, Senator Chris Murphy, last night on MSNBC. Let's go to the liberal commentator, always with the great commentary, in my opinion, on Fox News. I'm not sure I agree with everything she says, but I like a lot of what she says at that table. I think it's important that Fox News viewers get to hear things like this.
Okay, so I'm going to do this part quickly because I don't want to end up in a reel that you're showing tomorrow, and I'm not actually having a meltdown about the ballroom. But I will say that it is nothing like any of the other renovations. I mean, his ballroom is almost double the size of the White House itself. And he's not using taxpayer dollars. He's using his own dollars maybe, or the dollars of companies that want favorable treatment, like Google, Palantir, all with big contracts with him. But Trump and Caroline Leavitt and the whole administration would rather that this is what we're focused on, and it's really getting away from the real stories of the moment. We are in the midst of a government shutdown. The Republican caucus from New Jersey wrote to Mike Johnson saying, you got to make a short-term deal. Our constituents cannot handle these ACA premium hikes. Our farmers are losing their businesses. No soybeans coming out of America. We bail out Argentina, and then Argentina gets the contract. That's what those texts, remember, with Scott Besson and Brooke Rollins. And just before we came on air, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association said cattlemen and women cannot stand behind President Trump while he undercuts the future of family farmers and ranchers by importing Argentinian beef. Those are the stories of what is happening in America today. That is how Donald Trump's administration is hurting everyday Americans, most of whom voted for him. So the ballroom, it is a monstrosity, but I am choosing to talk about the shutdown and what's happening to our ranchers and our farmers.
Yeah, good stuff. Very smart way to do it on Fox News. Jessica Tarlov. And now here's Senator Elizabeth Warren accidentally calling Donald Trump a cunt. I'm here for it.
And I am proud to join my friend Jeff Merkley in saying this part out loud. Donald Trump is not a king. He will never be a king. And America does not bow down to kings.
No, we don't. But wait, who are you talking about?
Donald Cunt.
Oh, Donald Cunt. Right. I wish Jeff Merkley would have slipped up. Everybody should now slip up and call him Donald Cunt in solidarity with Elizabeth Warren, because that's what he is. I love it. The British version, of course. All right, here is Jeff Merkley, that senator who was on the Senate floor for 22 hours.
Under Title 10, which is the federalization of the National Guard, the standard is there has to be a rebellion or there has to be an invasion. A rebellion, a sizable group, well-organized, well-armed, seeking to overthrow the government. An invasion, a significant military force coming across to attack us. They're well-understood terms. Even though the law does not say give deference to the president in Title 10, two judges said you should give deference to the president. To say it's a rebellion just if the president says there's one when there's nothing, that's just throwing open the gates to say an authoritarian president can roll out the military under Title 10. That's scary as hell. But the Insurrection Act, in a way, is even scarier because it does have an explicit deference to the executive. I mean, that was written with the belief we would always have a capable, responsible defender of the Constitution in the Oval Office, and we don't. So reforming that act and closing that loophole, absolutely incredibly important to save our republic.
Yeah, there you go, Senator Jeff Merkley. 22 hours, and I watered it down to like 45 seconds. You know, here's more.
Trump's plan is to replace government by and for the people with government by and for the powerful.
Yeah, that's the succinct soundbite I was looking for. All right, now let's get to this controversy around the man running for the Democratic nomination for Senate in Maine. His name is Graham Plattner. You probably know him, probably heard of him. You probably even heard a lot about the controversy. Our friend Bill Boyle is so finished with him, absolutely done, and a lot of other people as well. Elie Mystal made a joke about it, and the rest. The current Maine governor is Janet Mills. She's 77. She's also announced a run, so people seem to be choosing between the two of them. There are others that are worthy of our consideration. It's just the fact that they don't have as much money and people don't think that they can win is my guess. But the whole Graham Plattner controversy, scandal, whatever you want to call it, let's let Michael Costa, who is in the anchor chair of The Daily Show, take us through just a bit of it. And then we'll hear from Graham Plattner himself, because I think I want to torture my friend Bill.
Up in Maine, there's a Democrat named Graham Plattner running for Senate, and he was getting a lot of momentum until this happened.
CNN reviewed social media posts, mostly made under Plattner's Reddit handle 5 years ago, that were deleted ahead of his campaign launch. In them, he once called himself a communist, dismissed all police as bastards, and said rural white Americans actually are racist and stupid.
Ooh, oh boy, a communist who hates police and thinks rural white people are stupid. Mr. Plattner, you must step down from Maine's Senate race and move to Brooklyn to be their anointed king. I'm kidding. I think Plattner still has a chance. Sure, his posts are offensive to rural white Americans, but keep in mind, most of them can't read. But hey, it's at least refreshing that we found someone's old posts. And for once, they weren't saying racist things about black people.
In another controversial comment, Plattner referenced his time bartending, asking why black customers, quote, don't tip.
Okay, so now I'm having a hard time figuring out this guy's politics. He's like, we got to stop the police from abusing these cheap black people. Keep in mind, he's from Maine, so the stereotype he's relying on is based on the one black guy from Maine. And that black guy is actually just a white guy who likes hip-hop.
Yes. Very funny and a great way to set us up to hear from Graham Plattner in his own words. He made this 3-minute video that he shared on social media. He showed us his tattoo, and a lot of his appeal is not only his military service and his working class kind of ideas, although there's new information that his great-grandfather was like a very famous architect. Is he working class? I don't know. But here it is, and I think a lot of the appeal, I was going to say, is his voice, the gravitas, the masculinity of his voice. It's shocking. Here it is.
Hey, everyone. Graham Plattner here. I want to talk to you about something. In 2007, when I was a young infantry sergeant in the Marine Corps, myself and some machine gunners I served in Fallujah and Ramadi with were on our 3rd deployment. We were in a naval vessel, and we pulled in for a Liberty port in Split, Croatia. We went ashore to do the thing that young Marines do, which tends to be carousing and sometimes getting tattoos. We wanted to get something that represented our jobs, our service, fighting in Fallujah and Ramadi as machine gunners. We went ashore, we found a tattoo parlor after a fair amount of heavy carousing, and we found a tattoo on the wall, a piece of flash that looked like a terrifying skull and crossbones. We thought it looked cool, and so we got it. I have had this tattoo for the last 18 years. I re-enlisted into the United States Army with this tattoo, where I was screened for hate and gang-related tattoos. I worked for the State Department as a contractor, where I got a full physical, which included screening my tattoos. I've gone through life with this thing, taking my shirt off, having photographs taken, videos taken. I've been very, very open in my life with the fact that I had a skull and crossbones on my chest, because that's what I thought it was. It's come to my attention that it has a stark resemblance to a symbol that is used by neo-Nazis. And I want to say that was not the intent at all. And the idea that I've been going around with something like that utterly horrifies me. I know that symbols like this can be incredibly damaging to people, and the idea that I've had it all these years and it could have been read like that is incredibly troubling. I have lived a life dedicated to anti-fascism, anti-racism, and anti-Nazism. I think that racism and anti-Semitism are a long scourge on our society and a long scourge on our politics, and I think it has no place in our world. For that reason, I have gone and gotten it covered up. Last night, I went to a tattoo parlor, and I got this to cover up the skull and crossbones. It's a Celtic knot with some imagery around dogs, because my wife Amy and I have 2 wonderful dogs that we love a lot. This far more represents who I am now than even the skull and crossbones did, which I thought that it was. This has come up because the establishment is trying to throw everything it can at me. It is terrified of what we are trying to build here. Every second we spend talking about a tattoo I got in the Marine Corps is a second we don't talk about Medicare for all. It's a second that we don't talk about raising taxes on the wealthy. It's a second we're not talking about the material struggles of Mainers as they try to scrape through a system that at its core is trying to rob them. And that's why tonight, I'm just going back right out on the road. We're holding a town hall in Ogunquit where, much like I've been doing for the past month, going around the state of Maine, making myself accessible to Mainers in their communities so I can listen to them. I can hear about what it is they need to change in our political system. And that is what I'm going to continue dedicating my time to. Thank you all very much, and I really appreciate your support through all of this. I will say, it is deeply hard for me personally, but all the outpouring of support telling me to stick with it, telling me that this doesn't matter, telling me that this means that the system is scared, it means the world to me. And I want to say thank you to all of you who have done so.
Ah, wow. What do you think now? Anybody change their opinion on him? Well, Bernie Sanders is still supporting him. Here is old Bernie, Senator Sanders from Vermont, of course. They've campaigned together, and he is not going to, shockingly, not going to drop his support for Graham Plattner. I say shockingly because Bernie Sanders has a blind spot sometimes when it comes to anti-racism and even anti-Semitism, I think. But that's just my opinion. You can decide what you think here.
Your candidate in Maine running for Senate, Graham Plattner, has been subject to a lot of fire and fury, stories of old posts, crude comments about black diners, about rural white people. You said yesterday you are still supporting him. Why?
I'm not overly impressed by a squad of media running around saying, what do you think about the tattoo on Graham Plattner's chest? Between you and me, there might be one or two more important issues. But let me go there. I'm not Graham's best friend. I met him several times. We did a rally in Portland, Maine, a great rally. I am impressed by the guy. This is a guy who will tell you who has served 4 tours of duty with the United States military. He was in the middle of some heavy-duty combat. He was a machine gunner. That's what you do. You mow down people, you know. He went through some very difficult experiences in the military as a machine gunner, seeing his friends killed. Came out of the military. He will acknowledge, I'm not telling you what he doesn't say, he had PTSD. He went to the VA, and by the way, what he says, they rebuilt his life. All right. He went into a dark period in his life. I suspect that Graham Plattner is not the only American to have gone through a dark period. But what he did was he expressed his darkness on the internet. Probably not a brilliant thing to do. All right. And he said things that are stupid, things that were hurtful. He has apologized for them. And what he says now, and the guy that I saw up on the stage in Portland, Maine, rather a brilliant guy. I mean, really a strong fighter for the working class, very articulate, very smart. And what he has said is, yeah, I went through a dark period. I said stupid things. I am not the person today that I was back then. And I think as a nation, especially given the fact that we have a president who is convicted of 34 felonies, maybe we have to do a little bit of forgiveness.
A little bit of forgiveness for Graham Plattner. There you go, Boyle. Now he'll savage Bernie Sanders as well. Looking forward to hearing from him. He usually doesn't come to the Thursday night hangouts, but we'll talk about it, I'm sure. All right, those are the clips that I've got for you. The headlines and the clips, wow, brought us almost to 40 minutes. And now it's time for Stephen Colbert, some laughs, and then we'll get to my great interview with the amazing Steve Nygren.
In the ongoing lowering of our national limbo bar, I gotta say, Donald Trump has proven himself surprisingly limber for a man with those cankles. Because in just the last 24 hours alone, he's achieved 2 new lows. First, you know how Donald Trump has always sued everyone and everything at all times everywhere? Well, some of those claims were against the Department of Justice, who, during the Biden administration and before, made the fatal mistake of doing their jobs. And his claims, he got a bunch of claims. Some of his claims are over investigations into his Russia ties and the seizure of hundreds of classified documents from Mar-a-Lago's highly secure guest bathroom. Okay, he didn't like that. He got really mad. So, okay. Now, of course, after he became president, all the cases against him were dropped. But that's not enough. The man wants his money. Don't make him put his rings on. Specifically, Trump wants the DOJ to pay him $230 million, which, from the sound of this audience, is obviously ridiculous. But since he won the election, technically, as president, he could now, in effect, order the government to pay him. Well, that doesn't seem right. I mean, if you're going to do that, why stop at $230 million? Why not just let him go to Fort Knox, lose the pants, and go Scrooge McDuck into a pile of gold? Just like that. Now, if you're saying a judge would never allow that, oh, you sweet, stupid child. This don't go before no judge. They're administrative claims, which would be settled by senior officials in the Department of Justice who were all appointed by Trump, some of whom actually defended him in these cases that he's suing the Department of Justice over. His own lawyers decide whether he wins. It's like that classic drama, 12 Angry Men Who Were All at My Bachelor Party. This is so crazy, even Trump is aware of how insane the situation is. Last week, this was just last week, right? Referring to the initial lawsuits that he filed back before he was president, he said this.
I have a lawsuit that was doing very well, and when I became president, I said, I'm sort of suing myself. I don't know, how do you settle the lawsuit? I'll say, give me X dollars, right? And I don't know what to do with the lawsuit. It's a great lawsuit, and now I won. It sort of looks bad. I'm suing myself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks bad. You sue you, and you get to decide which one of yous wins. I'm guessing you do. That's some kind of like endless loop of corruption, like a Mobius grift. It's I think they call it the circle of jerk. Come on. Now, is that what they call it? And keep in mind, he may say he's suing himself, but he's not cutting the check. The $230 million would ultimately come from taxpayers. So everyone but him. Many experts have pointed out, many experts have pointed out that the situation has no parallel in American history. Really? Why, that's shocking. You would expect more traditional behavior from President King fighter pilot AI diarrhea. I mean, there have to be standards. We have to live by our heritage. Now you're probably thinking, Steve, there must be some kind of roadblock here, some sort of Justice Department ethics advisor. Well, you'd be right if you had a time machine. Because back in July, Pam Bondi fired the agency's top ethics advisor. Was that ethical? We'll never know now. I think the president, he's not dumb, in terms of political instincts. The president might actually realize that this don't look great to the taxpayers, so he floated this idea.
As far as all of the litigation, everything that's been involved, yeah, they probably owe me a lot of money. But if I get money from our country, I'll do something nice with it, like give it to charity.
Yes. Yes, he might give it to charity. She's a centerfold he banged back in 2006. He's still paying out.
Yeah, I love the band, the bassist there. Yeah, how is that a classic bass chord that people of an entire generation recognize? Okay, well, let's get to my conversation with the great Steve Nygren. His new book is out. It's called Start in Your Backyard, Transforming Where We Live with Radical Common Sense. Very, very excited to have him joining me here to talk about all of the important issues that the book covers, whether you're a developer, a civic leader, business owner, or parent or grandparent, wishing to improve the things that complicate your life. This book is for you. It educates, inspires, demonstrates the impact of local action, and sparks hope that one person can change the world in amazing ways by starting in their own backyard. And I thought it would be a great conversation to have and to share with all of us who are increasingly sick and stressed and anxious and unhappy. Many people feel left behind by the economy, disillusioned by once respected institutions, and helpless, so often helpless in the face of environmental decline. Well, Steve Nygren is the guy. He is a really important person in my life, a friend of my family, a friend to so many. And I hope that you will go support him, learn more about him at stevenygren.com. Go get this book. Fascinating, the ideas, the solutions, the way it's written. Real happy to have it. Thanks to my friend Monica Olson for making this happen. She's a big supporter, listener of mine, and always been a great friend. Got to give her a shout out. Let's do it right now with Steve Nygren. And there he is. Oh, look at the legend. Start in your own backyard, transforming where we live with radical common sense. Here's the book. I've got a signed copy, and one of the most influential and inspiring people that's ever been in my life joins me. It's so great to see you, Steve Nygren. Welcome back.
Great to see you, and look forward to the conversation. We just miss you. You haven't been on the streets of Serenbe in a while.
Yeah, but we met at the Children of Nature Network conference, I think in maybe 2014 or 15. And then we kept in touch, and I visited there where you are in Serenbe several times. But we see each other in New York, and we've hung out several times, but it's been way too long. And so I'm very happy to see you, and I'm very happy as a result of the fact that you published a book finally.
Can you believe it, man? That I don't think that was even in the glimmer of my eye when you were here.
Well, look at what you've done. I mean, you're going to be celebrating your 80th birthday next month. I'm celebrating my 50th at the end of the month. Let me just ask you kind of a spiritual or just a life question. Like, what did you hope to achieve with your life when you were, say, my age or even younger, when you were starting your family? You now have, what, 7 grandkids?
7 grandkids, 3 daughters, and they brought all their northern husbands back to Serenbe. They're all being raised right here. I see them almost every day.
Yeah, I've met them all. They're all beautiful people. It's a little annoying, to be honest with you. They're all very attractive. What did you think? Like, what were you thinking when you were my age, when you were younger in your 40s and 50s, in terms of what you wanted to accomplish in your life? Because you made a bunch of money as a businessman, as a restaurateur, and you like retired early, and then you unretired, it would seem.
I was your age exactly when I decided the treadmill was something I wanted to step off of. I was on the boards I was serving on. I wasn't sure if we were addressing any of the health issues, and all the arts groups were going broke, and all the politicians I was supporting weren't getting elected. And so I decided to step away and sold everything and retreated to our weekend farm. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. And I was happily in retirement. We could take the kids to Europe for a month, and I wasn't looking for anything to do. I was happy to put our own garden in so we could grow our own food. Bought several animals who I thought was going to raise our own protein, but then the kids started naming it, so we never took it to there. But life was great until all of a sudden, 7 years later, what we call the bulldozer moment changed my life again.
They began to develop the area that was your sanctuary, and you tried to buy more land, and there was no way that you could compete with these big developers that wanted to build these traditional developments there outside of Atlanta. And so you did something pretty drastic. What happened next?
Well, so I also called several of the preservation groups, but they were all busy in in front of the bulldozers up north. And so what were we to do? And so I organized 500 landowners for 60 square miles just to talk about what our future was. That if we just sat and waited for something to happen and then react to it, which is what's happened across America, it was too late. I'd been in the business community. I realized by that time, chances are those developers have borrowed money to buy the land, to start the planning, and they're already dug in. And so I encouraged our community to come together and think about what we wanted to happen. Now, this was a mixture. I had land speculators who said, hey, this is some of the last available land in Metro Atlanta. My inherited landowners were very divided. Half said, bring on the bulldozers, that's payday we've been waiting for. And the other half said, don't you touch this. Suddenly I had these 60 and 70-year-olds reverting back to the conversations from sixth grade playgrounds in some of my early meetings, that calling each other names. So it was a really divided. This wasn't simple. But we just came in and just started asking the questions. What do we want? How could we change it? And we were able to talk about what did everyone want, and wouldn't it be great if we could work together and the developers could get higher value by actually saving land rather than developing every piece of it. And then the preservation crowd could get more preserved land that they would have ever dreamed of. The countryside of England was our model, because after World War II, they dealt with this because the island was only so big and they couldn't afford urban sprawl. But bringing English land law to a property rights southern state was another task.
Yeah. That's crazy. It's such an important and interesting story. Its origin story. Let me just take one step back about like who you are and what brought you to having a connection to nature to begin with. And I think that's one of the most important questions we can ask. And one of the most important things we can do is connect kids to nature when they're young. And of course, try to keep them connected to nature. But you were a farmer. You grew up on a farm. You farmed. Your childhood was pretty sounded hard. What you had to do.
Well, exactly. And so, as most of the baby boomers, a lot of us grew up on the farm and couldn't wait to get away. And I was one of those. I dreamt of being an architect and was off to the University of Colorado to do such. In the midst of the part-time jobs, I got seduced into the hospitality industry and stayed with Stouffer's Food Corporation for 7 years. They moved me to Serenbe, to Atlanta to open the hotel. And so that was my first step off of the corporate treadmill to open my own restaurant, and then grew that to 36 restaurants in 8 states until it wasn't any fun anymore 22 years later.
And all these restaurants and understood all kinds of things about business, all kinds of things about food, where it came from. Your childhood on the farm. What did you grow again? Like sugar beets or something? Was it in Kansas? Where did you grow?
No, it was Colorado. My ancestors were the early settlers of Boulder County, Colorado. And my great-granddad was part of the group that put the reservoirs in so that they could actually start growing crops. The Front Range is sort of a desert. And so it was sugar beets, cattle, brewing barley for Coors Brew. And so all very basic, small. I mean, a big farm, if we had 500 acres in those days, it was big. And now my cousins are farming 5,000 acres.
So all of that experience lent itself to creating this community, Serenbe, which is the most wonderful place I think I've ever visited, and it led to the book about community. I guess is the shortest version of what the subject matter is, and how to build community. What were people doing wrong? What were developers doing wrong when you first, and you were inspired by, as you said, all kinds of different influences when you first came up with Serenbe that you wanted to change and still doing wrong?
Well, yeah. I mean, number one was the paving over of our forest land. And as we analyzed it, the yield was not very good. The urban sprawl has created all sorts of social issues. Now, I didn't quite understand that at the time. I just knew that I wanted to save my own backyard from urban sprawl. When I started that effort, I had no idea that I was going to be actually a developer. But as we dug in, Ray Anderson, a dear friend he formed Interface Carpet and was the first U.S. industrialist to put his company on a carbon neutral footprint. I'd been a friend for years and was my mentor. And I asked him for help, and he brought the Rocky Mountain Institute in, along with 23 other people in September of 2000. At the end of that 2-day session, I said, Ray, now I know we're really screwed. All these people are talking, this is about energy, land, agriculture. Who can help me save my backyard? Who's applying all this stuff on the local? So he sent me to see Vicky and George Rainey outside of Chicago, and I knew the folks doing Seaside, and I came back a couple months later. And I said, "There's got to be somebody applying this to the land," and he said, "No, that's why you have to." And so it was a sober, and it took about 6 months that I realized he'd pushed me through that threshold of passion to where I stopped looking at all of the problems and what I was going to run into. Suddenly I had to do it when I realized there was no one really addressing this. And I did. I had that unique skill. I mean, hospitality, you know how to invite people to the table. But I was, in my restaurant days, I built that because the first restaurant was in Midtown Atlanta, where everyone had left in the 70s or 60s and 70s, but I could afford the rent. And then in my early career, it became known, or everyone said that I was too naive to need a feasibility study. So I got to, invited into these places were about to emerge, but hadn't yet. And then, of course, at the end of my career, everyone said I was too wise to need a feasibility study. So I was constantly at the front end of places that were changing. And so that allowed me at that front table to see what other people were doing and changing and bringing communities together to change.
So much of, I feel like your success, maybe all of it, has to do with your ability to connect with other people who have all kinds of different ideas, experts, analysts, and to ask the right questions and to listen, and then of course to implement it. But I mean, you've been organizing all kinds of different people for all types of different reasons, from political campaigns to what you're doing on now to saving the land. How much of what do you think about your life connecting yourself to people and now connecting people to each other by building an actual community? Just talk to me just for a moment about the importance, because a lot of people, they don't like people. They say, I hate people. And a lot of those people then prefer nature. I know plenty of them. What would you say to them?
Well, I think it's one of the issues facing our society today. It's one of the reasons I wrote the book. If you're going to accomplish anything, you've got to communicate with other people who might know more than you or who are going to be instrumental in bringing that process together. That just seemed like a natural thing that you would do. And I think the kind of places we built over the last 7 decades has actually caused a lot of the problems. And that's what I talk about in the book. And then you look at, I moved out of the city to the country just instinctively to raise my kids because I was seeing they weren't prospering as much as they were in the country. And we had a big yard, but we wouldn't let them out of the yard unless we were with them. And we were what I considered a safe neighborhood, but it was just that attitude. They came out here and they were free. And then a decade later, Richard Louv wrote Last Child in the Woods, which finally, it gave voice to what I felt. And now Hyatt has written The Anxious Generation. And all these are saying that kids are losing natural play. And that's one of the key things you have to learn if you're going to connect with people and have conversations in adult life.
It's such a great way to connect it all together, and including the great Rich Louv. In your first chapter of this amazing new book, Start in Your Own Backyard, Transforming Where We Live with Radical Common Sense, which I hope everybody will go get. You talk about what is wrong and what's not working. Steve, you write, look around you. People are struggling in numerous ways. The CDC estimates that 4 of every 10 Americans are obese. Not surprisingly, chronic diseases related to obesity, like heart disease, diabetes, and some forms of cancer, are rampant. 1 in 12 U.S. citizens suffer from asthma, including 4.5 million children. Mental health issues, too, are on the rise, impacting 1 in 5 U.S. adults and 1 in 6 U.S. young people. We are a nation of stressed out, burnt out, overworked people grappling with loneliness. Culturally, too, we are in trouble. And you go on to identify it. All of it, much of it can be connected back to that device that we are so connected to that causes all kinds of comparisons, anxiety, envy, and just a distraction from lots of other important issues. But go on with the diagnosis. What's wrong with us, Steve? How did we get here?
I mean, one of the issues is you have just read off a lot of the issues. Why aren't more people asking why? And sometimes there's various forms of addressing diseases and some of the problems, but I don't think we're going back to the real base. And that is how we've developed community. After World War II, Eisenhower put the interstate system in for possible military use. It's never been used for that, but it's defined how we have built communities. We can go further out to the most available land, the cheapest land, and build more housing and more housing. And then our zoning, for some reason, has disconnected where we shop with where we live. And we have created very non-walkable, very auto-dependent societies. And so we spend all of our time in this metal bubble getting us here and there, and we've lost that opportunity to connect.
And let's talk a little bit more about the connecting, at least your idea, and it's not all yours alone, your philosophy about how to actually connect people and incorporating that in the design of the homes and the community that you've built, which is a bunch of different communities in terms of architecture and theme and influence, but there's a lot of similarities. And then there are literal physical connections between them, trails and so on. Everybody has a porch. There's these mailboxes where you have to walk to. They're all in the same spot. You have done everything you can to make people bump into each other when most of us do not even want to see each other, say hello, connect. At Serenbe, people look each other in the eye, they say hi, they smile, they're friendly, and they also don't have lawns. You hate the lawn. Is that right, Steve?
I do. I mean, if you look at one thing that's really a problem, number one, it's absorbing a lot of our potable water. And yet we have a water shortage in a lot of places, and we're using a lot of it just to irrigate this. Then we chemicalize it so it looks beautiful and green. And I believe a lot of those chemicals are causing a lot of our problems. How can we live in a chemical field and not expect this to affect us, whether it's cancer or depression or asthma? We have over 300 kids living here now full time, and there's not one reported sign of asthma. Older people who have moved here who have had through their life asthma, and they no longer have it. We're now 20 years into this. This is no longer an accident. This is no longer Steve's friends coming and they're different. And so these are test points that are starting. We're looking for a third party to actually study this so that other people are talking that this makes a difference.
I'll do it. You just need a small place. I have no credibility or credentials, and you'll get nothing out of it, but I'll be there walking around and just spreading propaganda because I've learned, sir, to walk. I'm almost 50. I'm still running and I exercise pretty good, but now I'm walking, which I thought was an old man's thing to do as a form of exercise. I'm purposely going out and saying, I have my walking pants, I'll have you know, and I go out and I take walks and I walk around. I used to only walk in the park because it was peaceful and I thought now I walk through this lovely little town where there are people and houses that reminds me a little bit of Serenbe, just the way the homes are and so on and the way that people see each other. And why was I so critical of just walking around and connecting with people and making that be something I purposely did because that's what everybody does there in their bare feet sometimes.
Absolutely. I mean, it's how you go to get your mail. It's you go to the restaurants. It's where you go to the shops. It's where the kids go to school. My 7 grandkids are rarely in a car seat. There are pediatricians here, their school, their play groups. It's like, this isn't unusual. I had to look back to how we lived 70, 80 years ago, and there's nothing unusual about what we're doing here. But it's very unusual today. People, ask me if this is a utopia. And isn't that sad that we have come so far away from those simple civil things about knowing your neighbor and courtesy that now 50 years later, this seems like a utopia?
You practice something there called biophilic design. And it's a really important theory to understand. You've helped popularize it. It's a terrible word, but it's an important idea. Go ahead. What do we need to know?
Well, exactly. This is something E.O. Wilson popularized it. It was taught at Yale and UVA, but it's a cumbersome word. People don't know how to spell it or pronounce it many times.
Cumbersome word.
Yeah, Bill Browning mentioned it in that first charrette 25 years ago, and it just stuck in my mind as I've got to look that up and understand it. But then after, everybody thought I was crazy. But then after the recession, when all the analysts saw that walkable communities and environmental communities were some of the first to step out of the recession, a lot of people started becoming interested in what places like Serenbe were. And they always put a label on us. Either it was new urbanism, an agrihood, or environmental. And we're in Urban Land Institute's, top 10 in those categories. But none of those singularly define us. And so I was searching for what is that word that defines everything we're doing. And I followed Tim Beatley from University of Virginia at a presentation somewhere. And so I sat through his whole presentation on biophilic cities. And I said, oh, my God, that's it. It's the connection of all living systems. And that's what we're doing, because our connection to nature, the way we connect each other, it's all living systems. And so with that, we started identifying as a biophilic community. To my surprise, it wasn't that common. And so we formed the Biophilic Institute really to advance a lot of these concepts.
And you're doing a great job at it. Let me just ask you about a couple of the principles that are biophilic principles and that you know a good bit about, which is waste management and energy. I remember when I first came down there, you were touring me and showing me around and explaining how it all worked. And now I hear a lot more about the methods that you were practicing then. I think I heard about them for the first time, including I think geothermal energy, which you had some of that there, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're now geothermal mandatory. And so
every new, explain that.
So while I was searching, as you've seen, the courtyard where the blue-eyed daisy is. There's 12 units to an acre, and this is commercial with apartments above. Excuse me. It doesn't really have a back door. It has interesting roofs. Where was I going to put the air compressors? And so that was my initial deep dive into what are the alternatives, and we found geothermal. Geothermal, what I love, it cuts your heating and air conditioning in half because you're using the natural temperature of the earth. So you're either heating it or cooling it half of what you have to do with air compressors, which you're cooling the hottest air in the summer and the coldest air in the winter. So it costs you a lot to do that, where if you're consistently using the temperature of the earth's water. And so that was my initial reason. But then I became totally enamored because they're totally silent. So what a difference that makes. And if you walk through our communities now, everyone hears the birds, they hear kids. You notice it, and we forget how that hum of our various conveniences of life are really disturbing our whole energy field. And while our mind blocks it out, I don't believe our energy field does. And we wonder why so many people are anxious and some of our health issues. I think it's the noise that we have become accustomed to living with. And so geothermal is a huge thing, not just for energy, but for health.
Another thing, talk about the sanitation, which people might not be as interested in, but I think it's super important if you're going to have a community like yours to be able to develop the type of sanitation system that you have there.
Well, we realized that if this area, and we found out that the local sewer authority had actually floated a bond to run traditional lines, which would mean urban sprawl. And so we had to block that and not allow it and have self-sufficient systems. So that sent me on the path to find that. Of course, that really wasn't difficult because John Todd, the creator of the Living Machine, was at that first charrette 25 years ago with the Rocky Mountain Institute. And John knew exactly what we need to do. He invited Biohabitat in from New Mexico that do a lot of things in third world, some in America where they need it, and suggested we create our own system, which is holding tanks for solids. And then the effluent goes by 2-inch pipes down to constructed wetlands, off to a sand filter, and then in irrigation. And of course, we really had to educate APD on this system. They never permitted one in the Southeast. When we finally did, they required a big chain link fence around it. And I said, oh my God, you don't understand what we're doing. There's no standing water, no chemicals. Why would we need that? Well, it's a wastewater treatment. I got that removed and then gave the engineering drawings to Reed Hildebrand and said, make it beautiful. And they said, let's put a boardwalk right over the treatment center. And today we have more wedding pictures, prom pictures in the middle of where we process everyone's shit.
It's awesome. It's so great. And people, yeah, I wish I had a picture of it to show right now. Maybe I'll put it in post. But yes, that's exactly how it looks. And I'm sure it's been a long time since I've been there. It's even more beautiful. It's hilarious. Before I let you go, there's so much more to talk about in terms of access to healthy food and communicating through art, which is a huge, huge part of that community. But I guess finally, and we'll just have to do a part 2 because there's so much I didn't get to. I just want to talk about how important it is for this community to be a place for all ages, including, I guess you can talk about your family, 3 generations, you, your 3 daughters, and now the grandkids that you've got. But there are all kinds of little kids and families, and there are a lot of older folks walk around Serenbe, often living intergenerationally, which is, I guess you got to be able to get along, but you probably have an idea about how to make that work as well. Your family looks perfect, but I'm sure you've had some disputes.
Well, absolutely. But that's one of the another skill that is lost. In 1950s, we did not have these places where we sent the elders. They came into your home, whether it was comfortable or not, and you learned how to navigate that. I lived for a period of time with my grandparents, parents, and myself in the same house. And you learn a lot by those situations. We've created what we think is too comfortable a life, and so we don't know how to hit these hard knocks. And now through the course, we have separated the two. And I think the pandemic showed what a crime that is.
Yeah.
Both to me, it's like we place them in prisons for convenience. And so one of the big things, we're doing in Serenbe, and you'll see it, the free-range kids and uncaged elders, which is a huge thing we have to really focus on. And that we're really on that tangent right now.
Uncaged elders. It's visceral.
Think about it. We put them in these gated communities, and they only see other elder people. It's like the cruise ship to death. I don't want to board that.
I was also thinking of the reversal that, young people don't ever see elders, which is, I'm sure all kinds of unintended consequences when that's the case.
And the biggest loss is the kids that don't have that interaction with the elders.
Yeah.
Because generally we have more time and we are more patient. And, one of my richest experiences was the time with my great-grandmother and my grandparents. And now to spend the time I do with my grandkids, every Saturday night I pick them up at 5 o'clock and they get returned to their parents at 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon.
No.
And those rich experiences are, all 3 generations are benefiting.
You take all 7 of your grandkids overnight?
All 7, and half of it since the 9-year-old was a few months old.
What do you do with 7? How do you manage? Do you have help?
The oldest 5 are boys, and so what fun to be in a construction site. Piles of dirt and sand that are always changing, big equipment to climb on, streams, nature, sticks, rocks. I mean, what fun. Yeah, I just go, and since they were little, I'll pick them up any day, that they're free and you want to go on an inspection, we'll go look. And many of them, when they get out of school and they're all in school together right here, they walk to school or ride bikes. And I'll get this call from one of their parents. One of them wants to know if Grandpa's free right now, if they can come join me. Wow. My 9-year just comes sits on meetings with me now, and he's just so patient. He even goes to very boring city council meetings with me, just it's connected. And those are the kind of things that are missing today.
I wonder, it's so great, Steve. I'm so happy to hear all of that, and I'm sure other people are hearing that and with envy. Well, you can do it too, but when do you, because your oldest, this is the last thing I'll ask you, but because your oldest grandson is 9, Do you have a view, or is there any kind of view in Serenbe around when a kid is going to get their phone? I'm pretty convinced. You mentioned Jonathan Haidt earlier. I agree with most of what his research, some of it maybe not necessarily, but regardless, like I do feel like when a kid gets their phone at 12 or whatever age, I wish it was higher, that's it. You've lost them to a certain extent. I felt that way about my daughters to a certain extent. I know a lot of other parents do as well. When will your grandson get a phone? When do kids get phones at Serenbe? Is there a time?
Well, that's certainly a debate right now among parents and my kids as couples, and that'll be their ultimate decision. But they're certainly aware of what's going on. And there's discussions. And all of those kids' parents all know one another. They're on the streets. They see each other at the coffee shop. So this is going to be more of a united front. And what's more, some of these packs here, you're not going to let kids see any of this thing. The kids at Serenbe are not as addicted to screens, nor do they have to be, because they can have natural connections. The way we have built our society, many of these kids have no choice on connecting with their friends because they have to negotiate with their parents to be a chauffeur to get them there. And so if we take some of these screens away, how are they going to connect? Right. And what are we going to do? Because the place we have built has disconnected us.
Steve, it's so great to talk to you. It's such a beautiful place. I will come. I promise to come soon and see you all. And I can't wait to visit. It's a very happy place for me, where a lot of happy memories with my family when they were younger, as well as all the great new friends I've made there. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that everybody will go get your new book, Start in Your Own Backyard. It's so inspiring, as are you. It's always great, my friend. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. And I'm going to hold you that promise to come see us.
No, I will. Yes, indeed I will. I would live there at least part of the year if I could. It gets hot down there. I don't know if I could deal with that. But I hope you like that conversation. I hope you'll get the book Start in Your Own Backyard. And I hope that you'll look up Steve and support him everywhere. And if you're ever in or around that area, drop my name at Serenbe. They'll hook you up. Seriously, if anybody wants to go there, just email me, standupwithpete@gmail.com if you want to visit. And we'll get you a tour and bring you to the best places, show you around, take your family. It's a great day just outside Atlanta. All right, well, that's all I've got for you on today's show. The news, the clips, and, of course, an interview with a great guest. Pretty much the format most days, most weekdays for sure. Sometimes I don't get it all done, but usually that's what we try to do, and I can't do it without your support at patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Go subscribe for free on Substack and YouTube. Follow me on Blue Sky, Threads, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, where I'm also always posting, believe it or not, on all those places. And that's all I've got for you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you in Virginia on November 6th, where John Carroll will be performing at his album release party. And if you want more information, go to johncarroll.org and join us there. It's Franklin Park Performing Visual Arts Center, Purcellville, Virginia. My friend Jeff Hodder emailed me. So where is John playing? Virginia's a big state. Well, there you go. More details, johncarroll.org. And I will talk to you tomorrow right here on Stand Up. Thanks for listening.
You're laying down, boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up. Stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up. They had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. the seed of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up, stand up, got to stand up. Ooh, come on, just stand up. Everybody got to stand up in the darkest hour. Stand up, people got the power. Stand up. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Stand up.